Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to this afternoon's webinar. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to spend 30 minutes with us. My name is Jason Slabotsky. I'm the Teacher Support Specialist here at the UTeach Institute. We're part of the University of Texas at Austin. And most of you recognize me. I run our PDs. I provide support. I'm the guy from the videos, and I'm going to be the guy in the webinar today. So the reason why we put together this webinar is we want to support our teachers as you go back to school. And we want to show you in this webinar how you can adapt our UTeach CS curriculum to your virtual hybrid classrooms. Now, I know I have some teachers on here who are teaching CSP. Other teachers are teaching CSA. The demonstration I'm going to do today is for CSP. So if you're a CSA teacher, take the strategies we use here and apply it to your classroom. Okay, so as I stalled for just a moment to let some more people come in, I just want to let you know that for you who don't know me, I taught CSP since 2016. I've taught this course. I now work for the UTeach Institute. I train teachers how to teach this course. So I have a lot of experience in this, and we went virtual this summer with our PD, and that actually kind of like is a great model for what we're going to talk about today, and that is, what is your classroom going to look like? And some of you are going to be all virtual. Some of you are going to have students in the classroom, but still have to be facilitating somehow remotely at the same time. So this is more of a demo. I just want to let you know in the beginning, don't try to keep up with me. I'm not like giving you a demo on how to do this and at real speed. This will be recorded, and we will be sending out the recording to everyone who registered. So I'd rather you just watch what I do this afternoon and then take it back to your classroom, however your classroom's gonna look. I'm gonna basically structure my hybrid classroom that I'm demonstrating using Canvas and Google Classroom. I'll show you an example of each. I'll show you how to download the UTeach curriculum. So let me get started with our slides. Okay, so our webinar agenda, number one, if you'd like to follow along with me on this slide deck, we have a bit.ly link set up that you can go to right now, or we have a QR code for you in PD. You know, I like QR codes. So what we're gonna do today is overview of our updates. So first, I'm just gonna go through our teacher materials. We have updated them. Some teachers might not have taken PD, so you don't even know that our materials have been updated. We added a lot to them, and we're going to talk about that. And then we are going to, and during that, I'm also going to show you how to download the files from Canvas onto your computer. Then in part two, we're going to talk about the hybrid classroom. I'm going to tell you some tools, some tips, some recommendations, and then I'm going to demo what my hybrid classroom looks like in Canvas, and then what it looks like in Google Classroom. And I'm gonna adapt it so that I basically chunk unit 1, days 1 through 4 into one Google Classroom assignment. So that's what we're gonna basically talk about for the next 30 minutes. So let's get started. All right, and I will be jumping in and out of this slide deck because I do wanna do a lot of actual demonstrations. But for you who don't know, we made major updates to our materials because the CSP course went through a major overhaul. So we redesigned our course, and I'm gonna actually show you our teacher Canvas right now so I can demo it for you. Okay, so here is our newly redesigned homepage. And as you can see, it's much more navigable. We have a frequently asked questions section. And if you want to get directly to our units, you can click on one of these boxes, or you can also click on modules here on the left-hand side of the screen. And when you click on modules, we have built out our entire getting started section. So if you were not in PD this summer, or you haven't used our materials in a while, or you want to resubscribe as a UTeach teacher, this is a great getting started. It shows you how to do a lot of the stuff we review in PD. We show you how to navigate this teacher and student Canvas, how to use QR codes to set up your Canvas app on mobile devices. We also tell you how to set up Scratch and Replit, And we show you how to go through the College Board audit process. We show you how our lessons are aligned to AP Classroom, and all of that I have made videos for as well. So there's text and video. So this is one of the updates that we made, but most of the updates are to the lesson plans themselves. Now, we have our UTeach pacing guides that you're all familiar with, but unfortunately, that would be if we're all in the classroom. And we were just worried about timing, like 50-minute periods, but we're not in the classroom. If you're on this call, you're probably partially in the classroom or virtual to start. And what I'm going to do at the end of this webinar, or a little later on, is I'm going to show you how we're going to take this lesson plan and adapt it, and we're going to make it work in Canvas in your Google Classroom. Let's say if you just got to see the kids once a week synchronously, and then you are assigning them work outside of that Zoom meeting. And I'm going to say Zoom because that's what I use, but obviously you can replace Zoom with whatever your school uses, Google Meets, Microsoft Teams, whatever it is. But our lesson plans now have a couple of new features, and that is the lesson plans themselves can be used to actually facilitate instruction, because you can preview or open all the documents that you need directly in our Canvas. So this is a KWL chart that we're going to want your students to fill out before they start the Unit 1 project. So if you were talking to them about it, you can actually open this up, which is a really nice feature. And if you want to download it, you just click on the word still. But more importantly is our new assessment tab. Our assessment tab lets you filter our teacher lesson plans in the AP Classroom, so you can directly align questions to the material you're doing. And this is something that we worked on very hard the last year to put in our materials, and we are very excited. The teachers in PD have been already introduced to this, and if you haven't been in PD, this is another new feature of our lesson plans. And as always, we have our teacher preparation where you'll find all the documents you need. Now, we also, if you notice, have unit exemplar projects and teacher solutions for everything you're going to do. Our materials always weren't like that. They are now. But these are just PDFs. And that brings me to the other tabs in our teacher Canvas. And this is where you're going to be looking to figure out how to use this material to teach to your students. And let's take a look. We have a tab here called Files on the left-hand side. And in Files, you can find a Word doc version of all of those PDFs that are already in the lesson plan. And if you notice, I click on Teacher Resources here. And here is my Unit 1 folder. And if I click on Unit 1, you'll see all of my files are duplicates. One's a PDF and one's a Word doc. That way you can edit these and use them however you want in the Word doc version, or just grab the PDF. So that's a good remote strategy right there. You can actually edit these handouts to better fit whatever hybrid classroom you're setting up. But now let me just go back to this. And I'm going to go to my teacher resources one more time, and I'm going to show you how to download these folders. Now, I only would recommend downloading the unit folders one at a time. Some of you might be tempted to just download the entire teacher resources and just put it into your Google Classroom, your Canvas, your school G-Count, whatever you're going to be using. The reason I recommend you don't do that is because our materials are always being updated. That's why we house them in Canvas. We're able to just make tweaks to them. Well, they're 99% going to stay the same. But if we find typos or we find questions that we don't like, we make corrections. So I wouldn't just grab the entire teacher resources, but I know you're teachers. Most of you are probably going to do that. But let me just demo it with Unit 1. So as you can see, when I actually click on Unit 1, it becomes blue. If you go over here to the right-hand side, you will notice 3 blue dots. It's this simple, folks. You just have to click on there and then click download. And that's it. Now Unit 1 is going to be downloaded into my download folder on my computer as a zip file. And if you're using Canvas, that's great, because you know this. You can import course content in Canvas as a zip file, and it'll unzip it and put it right in your files. And then in Google Classroom, all you're going to have to do is first unzip the file and then drag it into your Google Classroom. So that's how you download our files. Now, notice I said that's how you download our files. That's not how you download our teacher lesson plans. You can't download our teacher lesson plans, which means you're going to still have to use this CSP teacher canvas because you're going to be using these teacher lesson plans to build the assignments in your hybrid classroom. And I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. So what I just did there is everything that I have on this slide. And in case you're not a subscriber to UTeach or your subscription has lapsed, we actually provide a release notes. You could see all of the updates we have done to the curriculum. And this has been our first major overhaul since this course was designed in 2016. And we have done a lot of updates to it, as well to our support model. So I provide support not only during the summer to everyone in my PD, but I provide support year round. And there isn't going to be a question and answer period at the end of this webinar, but if you're in PD, you know how to do this. Just reach out to me, either through our Calendly link or through my email, and you'll be able to schedule a one-on-one meeting with me, and I would be happy to spend 15 or 20 minutes to see the hybrid classroom that you built and give you my feedback and my suggestions and basically help you out. So then we also are going to provide support with webinars, and don't forget our professional learning community on Facebook. So that was a lot to take in, but let's keep going. Because one of the questions that I keep getting is, what should my hybrid classroom look like? And I want everyone just to take a minute to look at this beautiful graphic that the UTeach team. Now in the chat box, June, who's my co-facilitator for PD, and Marie, who's part of our sales team here at UTeach, are answering questions. And one of the questions teachers always ask me is, your teacher materials, how is this going to work in my hybrid classroom? And what about your student online textbook? How's that going to work? So this graphic is showing you how this is going to work. Your students are going to use our online textbook to do some readings. And you're going to use our teacher materials to assign the work. And then we're going to use some of these tools. So I'm going to ask June to unmute for a moment and talk about Zoom and all the benefits of Zoom.
Hello, everyone. Just like you, in March or actually late February, had to switch over to teaching in a virtual environment. And my school first started using a sort of built-in conferencing system in Schoology. The first day, it basically just crashed. So we had to pivot and we moved over to Zoom. So I've been using Zoom, like many of you, for probably about 3 or 4 months. It's been great. The ability to have my entire class, the ability to have classes that are longer than 40 minutes, the ability to put students into breakout rooms and then to visit them, and I can choose which students go into each breakout room, or I can just sort of say, make it randomly for me. There's some other nice features that if your school subscribes, you can do attendance. You can have co-hosts, so you can have like multiple teachers in there. You have the ability to sort of go around and look at different breakout rooms. So many great features. I don't want to get into too many of the details, but when should students be able to chat with one another? When can you take that away from them? Changing their name, muting, unmuting, the ability for students to be able to just take over the screen and share what they're seeing on their screen and then quickly be able to move it to another student. So many great capabilities that are built into Zoom, and they're constantly adding new features. That's sort of my 2 or 3 minutes about Zoom. I feel like it's a great program if you can run it on your computer and your students can all run it. And it really gives you a much better feel for your class than if in some of the other programs.
All right. Thank you very much, June. I appreciate that. Okay, so one of the things you're going to struggle with as we come back to the classroom is you're going to meet these students for the first time remotely. So I wanted to show you an app that is very handy to use to schedule meetings with your students. It's called Calendly. And if you've been in the PD, you know this because we use Calendly to schedule support. But this is what it would look like on your teacher end. It's a free thing that you can use. And you would basically set times you're available to meet with your students. But what makes Calendly really cool is that Calendly will then import your personal schedule and block off those times. So it's not like you have to be double booked or worry about it. And then what your students see is this one-on-one support tab and then this calendar. And then you'll be able to click on these and your students will be able to choose a time to meet with you, hit confirm, fill this out, and then it's scheduled. You get an email and they get an email. So this is a great way to schedule one-on-one meetings with your students. Now, you're going to ask them to watch a lot of videos in your class, especially with our curriculum. So this is called Edpuzzle. It's a tool that lets you assign videos and then track if your students watch them and how much they watched. And not only how much they watched, but also you could add questions to the videos at certain points. And then you could set up a classroom in here and have all your students be in here. And it's another tool that you can use with our curriculum. We're gonna have unit launch videos and things like that for your students to watch. Edpuzzle is a great way to keep track of whether or not they're watching those videos. And then we have Talk and Comment, which is a plugin by Google for your Chrome browser. And what it does, it allows you to leave feedback just by using this tab on the right side of your screen. Once you install the extension, this pops open. And when you click on it, you can then leave audio feedback for your students and share a link with your students with that audio feedback. And then most of you already know about Screencastify. And the last thing we have here is a remote teaching webpage for you to review on your own time. So now, the reason you're probably here is to learn about what we recommend you do in your hybrid classroom. So when I'm talking right now, I'm going to talk about your synchronous and asynchronous learning classrooms. So most of you are going to have to do a combination. You get to see the kids on Zoom for a certain amount of time during the week, and then, or per day, if you're lucky, and then they got to do something on their own when you're not meeting with them in a Zoom room. So when I talk synchronous, I'm talking about Zoom, the hour, maybe 2 hours, 1 day a week, 30 minutes every day, that you're going to meet with your students. And that's why I can't demo this for everyone. That looks different for everyone. But what I can tell you is what assignments in our curriculum I think you should be doing in person, synchronously. And when I say in person, that's what I mean, on Zoom. So, and then I could tell you what I think you should be doing asynchronously, what your students can be doing on their own. So the first thing on this slides that you'll see, okay, all of the stuff that we do can be adapted for asynchronous learning environments, except peanut butter and jelly, which, except the building blocks assignment, which happens to be on day 2 and 3 of unit 1. But we replaced that with the peanut butter and jelly algorithm assignment, which if you're in PD, you know it's pretty fun. Now, like I said, don't download the entire teacher resource folder. We're always updating our handouts, tweaking them a little bit. So you might just want to download, since you saw how easy it is, our units as you do them. And then, this is just some general recommendations. Asynchronous time should be for videos, handouts, student readings from the online textbook. Synchronous time should be for the unit projects, like doing the group contract or actually collaborating, building the algorithm for the password generator project. And then when you want to review code, kind of do it the way we did it in PD. And if you weren't in PD, I like to call it independent share and care. First, assign it to your students independently. Have them do the Scratch project on their own. Then, when they're in a synchronous session, put them in breakout rooms and have them look at each other's projects. That way, they'll be able to get ideas from one another. And then if someone really needs some more care or support, have them schedule a one-on-one support with the teacher. That's how I would be doing a lot of these Scratch assignments. So that way students are kind of learning on their own. And our textbook, our student textbook is scaffolded. So if they're just reading it, they should be able to learn this Scratch coding language on their own through the textbook with just you supporting them. And then last but not least, try to do units 1, 2, and 3 in order. They're scaffolded. I always like to say, if you can at least do units 1, 2, and 3 with your students, you give them a fighting chance in that create performance task of the AP exam. So just remember that, because by the end of unit 3, they've at least learned everything they're going to learn in Scratch, and you give them one programming language to go to bat with. All right, so what I'm going to show you right now is a demonstration of a hybrid classroom with synchronous and asynchronous modules. One is going to be in Canvas, and the other one is in Google Classroom. So the one over here is in Canvas, and I will actually pull that one open first here. So I just want you to take a moment to look at my screen. And you'll notice that I have mine broken down by weeks. Now, I don't know if you can really break it down by days. Most people are just going to see their students maybe once a week, twice a week. But week 1, I have an online synchronous session. That's my Zoom time. And then I'm calling it here a self-paced online module. And this was an example from the PD that we did this summer. And you could see I actually built out individual pages in Canvas, and my students have to do each page. So the part I would like to look at is the self-paced part. And as you can see, I built in assignments, but I want to get to the part where we use our student materials. So when we did the PD, we actually taught people the basics by using videos. So as you could see, we would have them watch a video, answer a question with an assignment, watch another video, answer an assignment. And you could do that with your students too when you're teaching them the introduction of Scratch. But what I wanted to show you was how you could scaffold our materials. So let's say you were doing this in Unit 2. It's just a random thing. It's a coding skills assignment called Math Mashup. Notice how I assigned it to my students. They would have to first read the student textbook, variables, stepping out, math expressions, randomness. So this is what my students would have to read. And I'm a little fancy. I embedded the student textbook into my course. I know some people in the PD have done that. Kudos. And then as I just keep clicking next, my students are going through here and reviewing those Scratch materials. So I have to make sure that I assign this for them to do. And this is how I'm assigning it in Canvas. I'm going to show you what I'm doing in Google Classroom in a moment for the beginning for Unit 1. All right, so this would be what they're doing. Now they're going to learn about the randomness block through random generator. And then the very last thing is the actual assignment. So here's what the assignment is. And then I actually built in Canvas an assignment for them to submit to me. So this is an example of what can be in your hybrid classroom as a self-paced module example, or what your students have to do on their own time. You assign them like the portions of our student textbook that they need to read, and then just bust out the assignment or copy and paste it into whatever learning management system you're using. And that's how I would do it in Canvas. Now, that was just a basic, let me just show you this and how I'm structuring it. Let me be a little more specific when I do it in Google Classroom right now. So I have a Google Classroom account right here. And obviously I downloaded my Unit 1 folder. And basically when I was a kid, I watched cooking shows and they would take the cake that's not even baked and put it in the oven, and magically it would have to bake for an hour, but they'd rip it out and it's done. So I did that as a lesson. I'm going to demo something, but then show you a finished product. So the first thing is I want to drag in that file that I downloaded earlier today. All right. And basically what I would do is I would go to my downloads. I would look for that teacher resource or whatever it was, and I would unzip it, and then I would drag it into my Google Classroom. And as you can see right there, my Unit 1 just appeared. Okay, and all my files for Unit 1 are now in there. Now I said my files, okay, remember, these are just the handouts, maybe a vocabulary sheet. I now have to go back and look at my teacher materials and see, what am I supposed to assign to my students? So now that I have that up there, let me just move my bar down here, okay. All right, so now let me go back to my classroom. And as you can see, I have built out what I'm calling assignment week 1. And what I did was I took all of my things that I'm supposed to assign in units 1 through 4, unit 1, days 1 through 4, and consolidated it into a week. So first, let me go back to my teacher materials. And let's look at what unit 1, day 1, what I was supposed to be doing. So for unit 1, day 1, I'm supposed to have my students learn about innovating with teams. So there's a video for them to watch. And then I want them to read the password generator project portion of their student textbook. And I also want them to fill out this KWL chart. All right, and then there's a group contract form. That I want to do synchronously when we're all together, because I want to put them in breakout rooms to do that. So that's a lot, but it's not really a lot if I have 2 hours for the week. So let me see what I'm supposed to do on day 2. Well, day 2, I'm really supposed to do building blocks. I'm telling you right now, you can't do that unless you're in the classroom. So I recommend replacing it with peanut butter and jelly. So you would do the peanut butter and jelly algorithm activity. But then if you notice, we still want to do this. And this can also be asynchronous. They can read on their own time this part of the student textbook. And then right there, that's all the stuff I need to assign for my week 1 assignment. Now, obviously, I can just cut and paste the links to the student textbook here. And that's what I did. So now let me go and edit my assignment so you can see it nice and big. So what I did was I said, here's my week 1 assignment. And it's actually unit 1, days 1 through 4. And what I did was I used my teacher materials, my teacher canvas to build this. So I'm going to call it with my students in-person Zoom time. So here's what we're going to do when I see you this week for 2 hours. We're going to do the peanut butter and jelly algorithm activity. We're going to review the unit 1 project. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms to finish the group contract. And then we're going to discuss the student textbook readings. Now, what are you going to do on your own time? And this would be all stuff that they would have to do before the Zoom meeting. So just keep that in mind. This isn't perfect. So it says, watch the password generator project on Edpuzzle. Watch the ABC Nightline video on Edpuzzle. And you guys who have used Google Classroom know how to do this. You just click on add and you could choose link and then just put the student textbook there and you see it pops up right here. And then if it's going to be one of our files, all right, you know what? Let me actually add our vocabulary sheet to this. So I want them to maybe do that. So I would have to first find it. See, I'm really bad at Google Classroom when you get right down to it. See what happens when you go off script. All right, so anyway, basically, you know that when you upload a document, you can actually make it so every student gets a copy. So every student has a copy of the KWL chart to fill out. They each get a copy of that group contract. But that's up here is where I assign to them what I want them to do. Assign the videos in Edpuzzle. Then you could even grade them on whether they watched them or got the questions right. Notice they're going to fill out the KWL chart. You can have them resubmit it to you for a grade. Review the group contract form, but don't fill it out. You're going to do that synchronously when you have all the kids, because you want to put them in breakout rooms so you can hop from breakout room to breakout room and see what they're talking about. And then review those student textbook sections. They're going to review it ahead of time so that you can discuss it. And here's all the stuff they need to do for this week 1. So that's how I would take our materials and adapt them for whatever it's going to look like for you. For some of you, honestly, you might have 5 hours a week, so you might have a lot more synchronous time. Always try to do our stuff synchronously. It's more fun to have it done in groups. All right, but if you don't have that time, all of our stuff, like I just kind of showed you at the beginning of Unit 1, can be adapted asynchronously. So now let me go to the next slide. Because right here, oops, I apologize. Right here is the Unit 1 pacing guide. And what we did was told you what you can do synchronously, which ones you can do asynchronously. And listen, if you're doing this remotely, you don't need to have 5 project work days. You can have a project launch, 1 work day, a follow-up work day, and then they present. Or maybe just 1 work day. So, I mean, it's up to you how you want to structure this. But this is just a quick look at it. And then we gave you a more detailed look into what you can kind of do for each one. So, like I said, for your virtual classroom, that's a demo of me doing it in PD. I recommend doing the PB and J session synchronously with your students on day 1. It's fun. You can't do building blocks. It's not going to work in any sort of virtual setting. And then, like we said, synchronous days, you know, they had those project work days for Unit 1, very important. They need to be in groups, talking, building their algorithm. Encryption, you can do either or. And then decidability, this whole thing for days 12 and 13, the discussion, including heuristics, students can finish the heuristic handouts on their own time. Now, the rest of Unit 1, these are all the activities you can assign to your students to do on their own. So, like I just said, flow chart, Unit 1, days 2 through 4, you could assign the flow chart to your students to read and talk about when you meet synchronously. Encryption, you could either do it synchronously. I would recommend doing it asynchronously. Let them do the readings first, and then maybe do a cipher activity when you have them all there after reading the student textbook. Programming languages as well can be done asynchronously. And then pseudocode and robot maze algorithm. Robot maze algorithm definitely can be done at home. It's fun for the students to do it on their own. They get to learn Scratch. And then day 14, algorithmic bias. Student groups can do the research project together asynchronously with, you know, the teacher just providing resources. So in other words, you can just maybe do it in breakout rooms, but you don't have to. It's totally up to you, because you're all going to be on different schedules. So I don't know what your time pacings are going to look like. But I just told you how to adapt Unit 1. Well, we will be, in about a few weeks, putting out how to adapt Unit 2. And we're going to do the same thing for all the units as we continue to roll out the year. And that is because we don't know how much longer people are going to be in this model, but we wanted to start with at least Unit 1 because we have teachers going back to work next week. So what other additional resources do we provide? We have a remote teaching guide that's available on our website. We obviously have an information session coming up on August 7th. You can actually, if you don't subscribe to our materials, you can attend that one, register for it. You'll get to be able to see all of our updated materials, teacher materials, student materials, create task module, how we're aligned to the AP classroom now, all these cool things and great tools we added. Not to mention, Unit 4 is now written in Python. We no longer use processing. So that alone would be a reason to resubscribe to our materials. And also you get support from me and the rest of the UTeach team all year long, whether it's one-on-one, whenever you want to meet with us, whenever you want to email with us, or in our Facebook professional learning community. So if you want to join that and you haven't yet, and you're one of our CSP or CSA teachers, click on it. I know CSP is close to 150 teachers now, all UTeach, all teaching the same class you're teaching, sharing great ideas. Webinars will be held, as you know, throughout the year. If you want to view past webinars, they're available at that link on our website. And coming up very soon, we'll be releasing a lot of short videos, less than 5 minutes each, about different remote learning instructional strategies. We're going to be sending them through email most likely, and you're just going to get emails from us, and it'll just be different tips and strategies you're going to be able to use in your hybrid classroom. So if you need access to that updated curriculum, please purchase it. The license is right there. There's a bit.ly. And with that, I just want to thank everybody for attending this webinar. We will be sending it out. If you're in PD, you'll get an announcement very shortly later this evening with a link to it. We'll also be emailing, if you're not a subscriber, we will be sending a more formal email message with this recording as well. Please stay in touch with us. So many different ways. If you need one-on-one support, please access that through the teacher canvas. But if you need to reach out to us, there's all our information. Once again, if you want to get this slide deck, please take a picture of that QR code. And with that, June, do you have any last comments?
No, someone had asked me about, asked about a word about the exam for this year. So all that information is inside the course and exam description. So I'm about to put that link in the chat, but otherwise, thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you, June. And yeah, and also we have spoken to College Board. We have no updates from them on what their plan is if it has to be remote again. They did say that they do not think under any circumstances this year they will eliminate the multiple choice portion. So I'm pretty much assuming even if it's remote, they're going to figure out a way for the students to have to submit a create performance task and do maybe a more condensed multiple choice portion. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for attending this webinar. It was good to see some of you again. I've seen you guys all summer long. And once again, if you aren't a UTeach teacher, please look into subscribing. Thank you and have a good rest of your afternoon.